Hi, I'm Eileen Bild. I'm with OTEL Talk, and I am excited today to have Dr. Emee Estacio. Hi, Emee. How are you?
Hi, Eileen. Thanks for having me. So good to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, I want to introduce you. She is the founder of the PAME code. She is a chartered psychologist with over 20 years experience in health, community, and positive psychology. I'm all about positive psychology. Her passion is to help embrace our true worth so that we can live a happy and fulfilling life. Throughout her academic coaching and research career, Emee has worked closely with individuals, communities to unlock their full potential using simple and easy to apply methods for limitless success in life. She's the #1 best-selling author of the Psychology in Your Life book series, including titles such as The Imposter Syndrome Remedy. Boy, I think a lot of people would like to read that one. Change Your Life for Good, and Fear is Not My Enemy. She's also now helping aspiring authors fulfill their lifelong ambition to write and publish their own books with her flagship course, Self-Publishing Made Simple. Wow. So you have a pretty extensive background with psychology and teaching and speaking. And I think I want to start with understanding the PAME. So if you could share a little bit more about that.
Of course. Well, I'm in Greece and I'm married to a Greek man, and I always hear him say, pah-meh, pah-meh, pah-meh. It actually means let's go together. So it's really just a reminder for us that in life we can go together, we can celebrate life together. It's more fun, it's more enjoyable when we share it with other people. But I also use PAME as an acronym for how I live my life. And it's living with purpose, action, momentum, and energy. So purpose, we always have to ground ourselves in our purpose and understanding why we're doing what we're doing. You have that mission, you have that vision and sense of purpose, but you need to couple that with action and make things happen. Once the ball is rolling, maintain the momentum, keep it consistent, and energy, keep up the energy, keep up the vibe, and that's just how from this point forward, that's how I want to live my life. So that's really what the PAMI code stands for.
And then you use that with your teachings and your coaching and all the work that you do. And it sounds like it helps to keep life in flow, because if you're
Yes,
thinking in that positive
absolutely.
mindset, yeah.
Yes, from the people that I've worked with, I started off with leaders, for example, with students, and now with heart-centered entrepreneurs who are writing books. When you understand that you start off something and start off with a sense of purpose, it actually helps to drive the action forward because you're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. There is a reason why you're doing it. Maintain the action, have the momentum, and also embrace the energy. Just recognize that this is energy, and whatever it is that you're doing, you're passing on that energy as well. So yeah, it's something that I keep close to my heart, and help my students to follow and understand as well, when we work together.
So I have a question that came to mind as you were talking about that. And did you have to discover that for yourself through an experience where you were not in your purpose and passion and momentum and taking action? Did this come through as a result of not being in that space?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. I think some of the greatest lessons and insights that we get in life usually stems from coming out of challenging times and hard times. And for me, it was really just after I came back from maternity leave when I was juggling a lot of things. It was also a change of my identity and my role. So there was a lot of transition happening there, and trying to find my purpose again. For most of my life before I was a mother, my only purpose was just to work. And my only purpose was just to build a career for myself. But when I went through that transition and became a mother, it opened up a whole host of um, things that I wasn't really thinking of before I had my son. It was a revelation that I was missing out on a lot of things, particularly the bit around unconditional love.
Mm.
So, just to love unconditionally when I gave birth to my son, and that the world is not just about me and my career. There's more to life than just working hard. Yeah, I had a little bit of struggle there because this is unfamiliar territory for me. So I went through a really difficult time, call it postpartum depression, but there are also some structural issues involved there. We're not going to go into detail around that, but, there are internal conflicts, external circumstances that contributed to that as well, going through a difficult time. But it was the point when I understood that I cannot do this on my own.
Mm.
People say you're enough, but actually, no, I am not. I need support. I cannot do this on my own. And recognizing that I need divine guidance, that I need support from the people around me, and recognizing that I'm actually not alone in this journey, embracing that and acknowledging that helped me to continue my path and get on with my healing. And once I went through that process, things started just popping magically. And just, we were talking about something horrible that happened to me a couple of days ago, but we're like, we're together. You just carry
Right,
on.
right.
Recognizing that we are all human, this happens, but as long as you have people around you and helping you through tough times, supporting each other, celebrating your wins and supporting each other through your challenges, it becomes a more pleasant, magical, and yeah, just happy way of living. So that's PAME. And I had to knock myself in the head to recognize that, yeah, we can live and go through life together.
Right, that's what I call the 2x4. The 2x4 that we get when it's like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
And your process sounds like it led you to have a deeper understanding of who you are and that authenticity. And I think that's part of what you want to talk about today is the imposter syndrome. That's one of your big themes in how you work with people to overcome the imposter syndrome. So part of that is finding that true self. And and I think the self doubt that we have, the feeling of inadequacy, and it sounds like you went from that postpartum feeling, maybe being an imposter, and there was more that you needed to know about yourself, and you were able to overcome. So, share with me your insights and what you've learned about the imposter syndrome and how you use your schooling and your education and to help others.
Yes, of course. Well, I have to say, one of the reasons why I've been writing about imposter syndrome and why I find this very important is because I actually experienced that throughout my academic career. It wasn't only until I went through my maternity leave and going back to work that it sort of exploded, like everything popped. Or maybe I just realized that, that was the tipping point for me. But throughout my career, I've experienced imposter syndrome. And for those of you who are listening, imposter syndrome is this persistent feeling of self-doubt, incompetence, and inadequacy despite evidence that shows otherwise. So when I was starting my career, as an academic, as a psychologist, we are supposed to write articles, textbooks and all that. So, we do research, we teach, all that academic stuff. And for me, I would spend like 60 hours a week working on an article, even if it is actually okay after the second or third draft. I will stretch my time, bend over backwards, thinking that if I don't put in that much time and that much effort, it's going to flop or people are just gonna find out that I'm a fraud. So before I had my son, I had only the attention, all my time and attention just on that thing. I didn't really care about anything else. I had no other responsibilities. So
Mm.
it didn't really okay, it impacted in such a way that I didn't really have a social life, but I didn't care. I'm a bit of an introvert. I thought, I can live like a hermit, it's absolutely fine. But when I had my son, that's not possible anymore. I cannot spend 60 hours a week, writing, a piece of research because there's someone else who needs me. So, having my son sort of opened up all of these unresolved issues that I have when it comes to imposter syndrome. And the reason why I was overstretching myself is because of the self doubt, this feeling of incompetence, this inability to internalize my success. I by that time I already completed my PhD. I graduated magna cum laude. I
Mm.
was working as an editorial assistant. I have so many accomplishments already, and yet I just feel like I just got lucky, or people are just being kind to me, or sooner or later they're gonna find out that I'm just fooling everyone. So I have to work so much harder, like really overstretch myself. And you see this a lot with people who experience imposter syndrome. We tend to end up getting burned out
Mm.
because of the first of all the pressure that we put on ourselves, but also trying to hide that feeling of, oh, people are gonna find out. Also, one of the characteristics of imposter syndrome is maladaptive perfectionism.
Mm.
And we have to differentiate this with adaptive perfectionism. I mean, adaptive perfectionism is almost like associated with a growth mindset, that you do something, you review what you've done, and you're open to learn and improve your craft. You review, there's always room to tweak things a little bit, do things better. So that's okay. That's how you learn and you grow and you hone your craft. Maladaptive perfectionism, on the other hand, and this is what we as people who experience imposter syndrome tend to have, is we do something, we review what we've done, it's 99% good,
Mhm.
but you focus on that 1% where you did the ums and the buts and you just couldn't get yourself out, or that for us academics, that one little typo that you missed out. It's like, you lose sleep over it, and you lose the joy and satisfaction of the accomplishment, because you would think that, okay, I got away this time, but next time they're gonna find out. So it becomes a vicious cycle. And in my case, even if I was getting all these accolades, and I'm getting I'm being put in a position of responsibility, already starting to supervise projects, lead projects, and so on. In my mind, I'm just saying, it's not that I'm good at what I do. It's because I overwork and I overstretch, and if I don't have that much time, then everything's gonna fall apart. And that's when, that's what happened when I had my son. That now that I don't have the time to overwork, now they're gonna find out that I'm a fraud. So that's
Mm.
where all the, you can see the consequences of imposter syndrome. You can have burnout, lack of satisfaction of your success. You can't internalize your success, and it can impact on your mental health, on your relationships, on your energy levels, physical health. I mean, for me, my body was sort of attacking me.
Mm.
I was getting vertigo, I was getting rashes everywhere, IBS, you name it. I had something all the time. Now I'm happy and healthy. It's just resolving these issues that you have internally. If you have these unresolved issues, your body is gonna tell you about that.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing. I'm thinking a lot of people listening will probably either identify completely or at least have been through maybe some of what you have shared. And fear, I think, is part of that, the fear of being found out, or the fear of because of that feeling of not being good enough or being found out, that fear keeps people stuck. And
Yes.
it's hard to move forward. And it sounds like you found ways to break that cycle and break
Well, you
that
mentioned,
pattern.
yeah, you mentioned fear, Eileen, and you're right. That's what's keeping people stuck. And when it comes to imposter syndrome, You will have people who will be given opportunities, for more responsibilities or leadership positions, new projects to take on, like exciting opportunities because people believe in them. But
Mhm.
when you have that self-doubt and you fear that I'm not good enough for this, or if I take this on, it's gonna put me on the spotlight and people will see all my incompetence and all my flaws. So, there's you have this tendency as well to pass opportunities that could improve your career, for example, because you are afraid that if you do that, either you'll fail, or that you're just not good enough, or that it's going to expose you, put you on the spotlight, and you just don't want to be in that position.
So let's talk a little bit about one tool that you developed or use that helped you to get out of that patterning cycle.
Ah, yes. So, in my book, Imposter Syndrome Remedy, I do talk about the TLC technique. And when it comes to the TLC technique, it's not really about tender loving care. It's a questioning sequence that you use when you have your inner critic messages coming out of your head. So, for example, if you're telling yourself, I'm not qualified to do this. I can't do this. You ask three questions. Is it true? Is it logical? Is it constructive? So if you ask the question, is it true that I'm not qualified to do this? It's likely that the answer to that would be no. Because otherwise, it's not true. Otherwise, people wouldn't give you that task, or they wouldn't hire you to do the job in the first place. But the reason why I ask the first question, is it true? It's because we don't want people to be in denial. We don't want to be the ones who say fake it till you make it. That's not sustainable. We don't fake things. If you answer the question, is this true? So for example, you are in a position right now wherein you changed your career, and you're doing something else. You may have the skill set, transferable skills that you could use in your new career path. But if you ask the question, is it true that I've never done this before? Is that true? It might be true. It might be true that you are new at this new path. It might be true that there might be skills that you are lacking, or skills that you still need to improve. You shouldn't really deny that. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't do it at all. Everybody has to start somewhere.
Right.
That's why you ask the first question, is it true? But the second question is it logical? So let's say, for example, you're starting a new business, or you're starting a new career path, and you say, is it true that I'm new at this? So is it true that I'm still finding my feet and so on? Yes, it's true. This is stage one, or let's say this is stage zero. If you're starting from scratch, it's fine. But the next question is it logical? Just because I've never done it before, does it mean that I shouldn't do it at all? Or if you're telling yourself, just because I don't have this skill, or I don't know about this yet, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't take the opportunity to learn from someone else, or to gain new skills. So that's the next step. Admit that there might be some limitations that you have, but there are ways to improve yourself, so you don't wallow in self-pity, or you don't even wallow in denial. You look at it as an opportunity to grow and develop yourself, and that makes it exciting, because there's always room to learn and grow. So that's the second question. Is it logical? And the third question is it constructive? So let's say, for example, yeah, you're taking on this new path. Yes, it's true that you are new. And yes, it is illogical. Just because I'm new at this, it doesn't mean that I shouldn't do it at all. The next question is it constructive? What can I do? What are the actions that I need to take to make this work for me? So if you are new at this, if you are inexperienced in this area, who can you reach out to? Who can you learn from? Can you pick role models to see how they are doing things, or what can you do to improve your skills and move forward in this new journey? So instead of feeling sorry for yourself, or taking this so-called inner critic as something that needs to be, there are some mentors who would say you need to crush it, you need to silence it. I would say, please don't do that, because Your inner critic is a voice inside your head. And if you try to silence it and crush it and have a fight with it, essentially you are fighting with yourself. So
Mhm.
if you give your inner critic the chance to voice it out, have a conversation with it, have a dialogue. You don't necessarily have to take it on board, but see where it's coming from. Where is that voice coming from, and what can you do maybe to reframe it or use it to your own advantage? Because sometimes, as I also talk about in my book, Fear is Not My Enemy, some of these emotions that we feel or the inner critic messages that we hear, they have a basis. And until we understand whether there's a basis of it in reality, if there is some truth to it, that there are potential risks, that there are consequences, if we don't try to mitigate this risk, we need to make informed action before we move forward. So it's not about being still and being paralyzed by these messages, but taking a step back and thinking about how you can reframe these messages and how you can make these messages work for you, so you are better prepared, more informed. You can take more informed action as you move forward in your journey. So that's what it is. Ask the three questions: is it true? Is it logical? Is it constructive? It will help you to find a bit of grounding in reality, and also helping you to reframe the message and having a more informed decision on what you need to do next.
And that sounds like a wonderful process. I'm sure for some people, it's like, well, that sounds easier said than done, and it's sometimes a little bit difficult to step into that process. And it has me wondering, with your training and teaching, have you found any theme in that um, foundation of what has created in people that imposter syndrome mindset? And how you can encourage people either on their own or to seek out that help. It's like, I guess the
Mm,
first question is, what have you discovered to be the influence from, let's say, the childhood or past that's created that thinking? And then what can someone do to help them to start moving in that direction of the TLC?
sure, sure. Now, this is an interesting thing because when it comes to the childhood messages, in your childhood, you might be getting messages from your teachers or from your parents, well-meaning people, to say, "Oh, you're very clever. Ah, you're the smartest kid in class. Oh, perfect. Like you are this perfect person who can outshine everybody." And that sort of like imprinted on you, like I'm a super child, I'm this super genius, and I do everything right. So you take that, and as you grow up, you finally find out that you're not always the best, that you're not always the top of the class, and sometimes you mess things up. And if you have that fixed mindset, it's like, oh, people told me that I was great, and I'm starting to realize that, I'm not. Were they lying to me? Or was I under the illusion that I am? So that's where it could build up, that, and for me, I've seen this from my own experience because, as a child, I've been labeled as the smart one, like the academic one. And as you can see, that's the trail that I followed.
Mhm.
And as you go into the quote unquote real world, like as an adult, you still have that message that, oh, I'm the smart kid, I'm always the top of the class, I'm always the best. And then you go into the real world, and it's like, there are people who are ahead of me, and there are people who do better things than me. So, I'm not the best anymore. So you need to find a way to ask those questions again. Is it true that you're not the best anymore? Yes, it's true. Sorry. There are people who are better than you, but that's okay. The L question, is it logical? Just because people are better than you doesn't make you a fraud. It just means that they have more experience. It just means that they probably have better training. And unfortunately, I'm sorry, I'm going to talk a little bit about institutional racism or all these privileges that other people have. They might have a leg up in terms of the existing power hierarchies that exist in society. I'm sorry to say, but that exists too. It has to be said. But, just because you are in that position, the third question is it constructive? If I am holding on to this, to this thinking that, okay, there are people who are better than me, okay, they might be in a better position than me. What can I do to fix this? Or what can I do to better myself? And the response to that is, let's collaborate with people. Let's learn from people. Let's all work together and see what we can do together. So it's not necessarily underpinning my growth and development. Although you initially it could, I could wallow in self-pity like, oh no, I'm not the best anymore. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. Everybody lied to me. No, the reality is there will be people who will be better than you, and that's okay. That doesn't make you a fraud. So you ask, is it true? Is it logical? Is it constructive? And the way to make it constructive is you can find a mentor, work with people. If you can change the system to make it equal for everyone, that would be fantastic too. But you can make things constructive instead of using these inner critic messages as a way to destroy your self-worth and your well-being.
And it leads, I think, to the idea of the confidence. Someone who has strong confidence tends to, quote unquote, get ahead faster and further than someone who has low self-confidence or low self-esteem, which I think is tied to the imposter syndrome. And, in my experience, it's not comparing myself to other people, but honoring the authentic person that I am, which you have mastered that as well, and share that with other people to help them to honor the self, honor who you are, that the gifts that you have, someone else may not have, but your gift is just as valuable as someone else's. And it sounds like a lot of the different projects that you work on is beneficial for people to shift from that imposter syndrome mindset to the growth mindset so they can find their true self, their true meaning, their true purpose. So do you have a project right now that you're working on?
Well, I have to say, I'm working with heart-centered entrepreneurs, and I'm helping them to write their books and share their message. And imposter syndrome is so strong. In some of these people, like they would say something like, who am I to write this? Or, who's going to listen to me? Or I'm not going to give enough value. What I have to say is so tiny. It's not worth putting it out there. It's not worth publishing. And for my clients who actually do experience that, I feel for them because I've experienced that myself. Just feeling that what I have to offer is not valuable enough or that no one's going to listen. But what I keep telling them is what you have, and no matter how small it is, it might be just that small little nudge that could help someone else. It might just be the message that someone else needs to hear right now. And of course, there are other authors who have already written about your topic, talking about self-love, talking about compassion, talking about healing. There are so many books out there who that already cover that topic. However, your unique voice, your personal take on this subject matter, your tone and the energy that you bring into this topic is unique, and that might just be the combination that one other person will need right now. So for what it's worth, write your book, share your message with the world, no matter how small you think it is. Until you get it out there, you'll never know what kind of impact you will have on someone else until you actually do it. And for many of my students who do end up hitting that publish button, they are just ecstatic. The kinds of reviews and feedback that they get from their readers, people saying your book changed my life, or your book really helped me as I went through this difficult period in my life. Thank you for writing your book. It just means a lot to these authors, because on the one hand, even if they were feeling doubtful initially about their skills or about the message that they want to share, and for some reason I'm actually attracting a lot of people with dyslexia.
Mm.
They are not confident about their writing abilities. They have an important message that they want to share, but they are not, they are not confident about their writing, because they found the courage to overcome that, because their passion and their willingness to share their message is so strong. They are able to hit that publish button, and when they do, the impact that they have on the lives of their readers, the kind of impact that they want to contribute in the conversations around their topic. They talk about loss and bereavement and abuse and healing and all of that stuff. Their readers actually really appreciate this, particularly coming from the authors that they know, like, and trust, from their own unique perspective, from their own unique voice. And, it's something that we need to celebrate, because there's something unique that we can bring into this world, and we need to really embrace it and share it with others.
Well, and I'm sure it's rewarding for them to get to that point to where the publish button is pressed and they start to get that feedback, and it supports the idea that, oh, I'm not an imposter.
Yeah, it's not too
Yeah.
bad after all.
Right, right. But I think one of life master teacher lessons is that when we step out of that fear and we do take that chance, um, we can fly. We can uh, climb that mountain and reach the top, and do it successfully. So I'm glad to see that you're helping people come out of the shell and overcome the imposter syndrome and find ways to share their story, because we all live in this crazy thing called life together, and identify with each other's stories. So how can people get in touch with you?
Right. Well, I'm most active on Facebook. I have my self-publishing Made Simple community on Facebook. Or you can go on Instagram, look for Emee_Estacio, and you'll find me there. I'm very friendly. You probably can tell.
Yes.
Just reach out, and let's connect.
And I know you have a lot of videos out there people can watch as well, very informative. So do you have a way for people to access your videos?
Sure. If you go on YouTube and look for Imposter Syndrome, Dr. Emee Estacio, or something like that, I have a public lecture on that topic. So feel free to look on YouTube for that particular public lecture if you'd like to learn more about imposter syndrome.
That sounds wonderful. Well, thank you, Emmy, Dr. Emmy, for being on the show today and sharing all this insightful and informative information. And I look forward to talking with you again. And I wish you all the best.
Thanks, Eileen.
You're welcome.